We're just having a long fucking day. We're having a long fucking day. First the video wasn't working. Now I'm on mute. It's a whole time. Is my volume up? Is that why? Okay. Now we're starting. Now we're starting, and I'm so tired. So today we are going to be talking about Sudan. Basically, I've been seeing a lot of videos about people in Sudan feeling like they are in this alone because there are a ton of different genocides and like violent conflicts going on around the world, and they feel like they're getting swept through the cracks. But as well, you also have the many you have the like many instances of anti-blackness that is especially anti-blackness focused on Africa, which, like, the idea people have that conflict and violence, that's just what Africa is, despite the fact that it's very consistently tied to the West and like Western influence in Africa. But that, as well as just not caring about Black people dying, is another reason why they feel like they're in the shadows of, and they're not getting seen, they're not getting heard. And so today we're doing a different form of like thing because I've been wanting to talk about this. I've been wanting to talk about the Congo for a hot minute, but it just takes time to research and it takes time to script. And again, at the moment where it feels like, again, a lot of people feel like they are not being heard, like they are alone in this, we're just going to figure out something else to make sure we are taking time for them, even if it's outside of what I typically plan and try to do. And so I've gathered some videos here today, as well as one website. We are going to be going through those, and we are going to take some time today to listen to Sudan. Now, before we get into all of these videos, we are going to talk about links down below. You should buy one of my books because I've apparently been streaming here by myself. Not even before the mic was muted. I was streaming for like 10 minutes, didn't realize that it didn't go live. YouTube said that footage exists, but the YouTube app doesn't. I don't know what's going on. For my strife, you should buy a book. They both have queer characters, so that's exciting. Once Imani and Aaliyah's Fashion Bible is a sapphic romance, and then Dallas from the Queen of Thieves, A New Throne, my spy series, that she's queer. So you should check out my books. Those links are down below. Also linked down below is it is a spreadsheet of people in a lot of the different genocides and conflict zones that are in need of funds, and it is just organized to be able to access and interact with the different GoFundMe's and support the different GoFundMe's. It also does, this one has like Sudan, it has the Congo, it has Yemen and other places, and it also does have links to similar for Palestine. So it does have links to Operation Olive Branch, because I know that Creators for Palestine hit their goal, and I believe they're still fundraising, but we're just gonna put a more evergreen link down there to support, so that those links are down below. Also down below is going to be the user of all of the different creators whose videos we are playing. Let's get going. So the first video is by Bsonblast, and this is going to be like a introduction to what is going on in Sudan.
Hi, it's day 198 of the war in Sudan,
Might want to see it, maybe.
and I'm here to give you a quick and dirty of what's been going on. First up, some geography. This is Sudan. We are a country in Africa. We're bordered by Egypt, Libya, Chad, the Central African Republic, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Eritrea. We had a beautiful popular uprising turned revolution in 2019 that was totally ruined by these two guys. On the right, we have, we'll just call him Burhan. He's the leader of the Sudanese military called SAF. On the left, you have, we'll just call him Hemeti. He is the leader of the Rapid Support Forces called the RSF. I'll cut to the chase. They're both bad. Burhan is bad because he was part of the military dictatorship that Sudanese people revolted against in 2019 in the first place. And then after the revolution, instead of handing over power to a civilian government like everybody wanted, he decided, nah, I want to be president. Hemeti is bad because he's a psychopath. Before the fancy uniform and the fancy title, he was leader of the Janjaweed. If you remember the Darfur War, you know what the Janjaweed are. If you don't, then it is basically a militia contracted by the Sudanese government to kill people in Darfur. Fast forward, he is legitimized by the Sudanese government. They go from Janjaweed to Rapid Support Forces. He gets a fancy uniform and a fancy title. He amasses mountains of wealth and has aspirations to lead. Up until they started tussling on April 15th, these two were essentially president and vice president of Sudan. Now Burhan and Saf claim that the RSF is a rebel militia. They're a terrorist organization.
Just want to read that side note of the things that the leader of SAF are claiming that, and that what they're using for their end of the aggression are the things that the people have been saying and have been getting assaulted by the government for saying, which we love.
And that SAF is the one protecting Sudan. Meanwhile, Hemeti and the RSF claim that they are protectors of democracy, that they are fighting against SAF to rid it of the remnants of the previous dictatorship, i.e. Burhan. So on April 15th, the war breaks out. It starts in Khartoum, essentially, and then moves through cities and towns all through central Sudan and into western Sudan. This, by the way, is a map from October 7th showing the number of displaced people and where they were displaced to.
We're going to pause just for a second to look over the map of displacement for a little bit longer. I don't have a video on it, but just things I was coming across as researching more information about the process, I guess, of what's going on with people that are escaping to en route to like trying to seek refugee haven in Egypt, which is rough. It's rough. It's not a good time. It's not a good time at all.
Now, earlier,
mind you, Egypt has not been a great participant in allowing Palestinian refugees either.
I said they're both bad. That's true, but the RSF is way worse. Over the last 7 months, the RSF has been committing heinous crimes against the Sudanese people. Besides the indiscriminate killing and bombing, they've also been raiding and looting towns, villages, neighborhoods, homes, expelling people from their homes after they've raided and looted them, and then sometimes even moving. Sexual violence is also a weapon that they have often used in the last 6 or so months, and all of these crimes that I've listed are part of their legacy dating back to when they were still the Janjaweed. There is absolutely no way that I could list all of the devastating effects that this war has had on Sudan and Sudanese people over the last 6 months in a 3-minute video. And after practically 6.5 months of fighting, SAF and the RSF are currently in negotiations and can't even agree on the basics. And why would they need to, when their funding is still rolling in and the world has shown it does not care?
And as well, part of the RSF, which is the rebel revolt of the quote vice president, is their intention is not for the safety or the protection of the people. They are acting with genocidal intent towards the people of Sudan. Okay, I will be muting my desktop audio in between these videos because I did grab these off of Instagram and they are not like universal audio. The audio is not consistent, and we can sacrifice my ears before yours. Okay. This is Gouda. So let's hello. Hi. no. Everything's breaking. Ugh, you would be surprised at how difficult it is to actually get this running and keep this running. You'd be so surprised. Fucking Windows Media Player doesn't want to do it. None of my other apps want to play videos. Okay, this is going to be a supplementary video. It's going to continue talking about specifically some outside meddling into the conflicts. Let us begin. Guess who forgot the video was on mute? I'm sorry.
Hi, this is part one of answering some of the biggest questions that I've been getting about Sudan. Before I get into it, I just want to say that none of these videos that I'm making replace reading and research. I really highly recommend that you do that. Besides the fact that I am by no means an expert on all of this, I'm also just a person. I'm just some lady on the internet. So I'm certainly fallible.
Also want to emphasize that as well. I do have some other resources aside from just the Bsonblast, but yeah, there's always more research to be had. And certainly because this is an ongoing event.
The first question I've been getting is, okay, so then who's the bad guy, right? These are the same people fighting against each other. Who do we root for and who do we root against? That's what makes the situation in Sudan so complicated. Much like what Palestinians are saying, this didn't start 6 months ago for us. This is part of a larger context, a longer history that dates certainly all the way back to colonization, but is directly impacted also by the last 50 plus years of successive military dictatorships and also decades of international, for lack of a better term, meddling. All of these factors have contributed to the consistent dismissal, silencing, and active oppression of perhaps the biggest stakeholders and most important stakeholders in the country's affairs, the Sudanese people themselves. So while those primarily responsible for the hardships that Sudanese people have experienced are these Sudanese leaders, I use that term very loosely, it's more like captors. I want to sort of give you a larger context and show you how that meddling that I just talked about plays into all of it. And this is, by the way, is another parallel between Sudan and Palestine.
Which if I need to, I can elaborate later, but I do think part of why this might not have also gained as much traction in the West and in the United States is because the United States is not the focal bad guy here. Like in Palestine, obviously the United States is actively a part of the genocide. In the Congo, the United States is one of the like capitalistic centers of the world. The United States is where those resources are like centered at, with our electric vehicles, with all of our devices. And so I feel like those are also factors in which we in the West, and we specifically in the US, can almost center ourselves in the conflict, and thus because we feel like the center, we feel like the focal point of the issue, we feel that ability to act and make change. But I'll, if needed, I'll elaborate, but let's listen to some of the main meddling and whatnot.
In 2020, 1 year after the glorious Sudanese revolution, the Trump administration applied pressure on the transitional government, then led by the military, to normalize ties with Israel. This in exchange for removing Sudan from the state sponsors of terror list, which we had been on for like 30 years. And if you know anything about sanctions or these lists, you know that the people in power who are responsible for a country being on that list are rarely, if ever, affected by said list. Instead, regular citizens are the ones who bear the brunt of that in so many ways that I couldn't possibly fit in this one video. So even though the vast majority of Sudanese people are categorically against recognizing the state of Israel, the transitional government decides, let's take the deal anyway because it's too good to pass up. By the way, this deal with Sudan, which includes some other stuff that you should go look up, was later used by the Trump administration, well, Trump and his administration, as proof of his brilliance because he got justice for Americans and fixed the Middle East. One of the first things Burhan talked about with the state of Israel was collaborating on security issues. What the Israeli government gave the Sudanese government, i.e., the military, was surveillance drones, anti-riot equipment slash weapons, most prominent of which being the skunk. This is a photo of the skunk in action. It is being used in this photo against Palestinian protesters. It is essentially an armored vehicle that is outfitted with a water cannon, if you can see it there up top, that shoots out colored, foul-smelling liquid. This is that same vehicle being used against unarmed protesters in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. You can see the liquid is not colored this time. They like to switch it up. I say liquid because Sudanese protesters have reported that there's something off about what's coming out of that water cannon. It's not just water. Besides it smelling like sewer water, a lot of protesters have reported that it caused extreme skin irritation, from rashes to hives and boils. Some not right about it. This vehicle is just one of a variety of tools of violent repression that the Sudanese government, i.e., the Sudanese military, has wielded against the people of Sudan.
And while basically any weaponry and like tools like that Israel would have gotten and given to Sudan was likely from the US, there are also several other uh weapons dealers involved in arming both sides of the conflict, which it keep them from feeling any need to seek peace or ceasefire in the conflict.
As well as all of its subsidiaries, right? The police, intelligence services, Central Reserve Forces, which are like the police but worse, you name it. And being that before April 15th, 2023, the RSF and SAF were both under one military umbrella and leaders of the Sudanese government. Do you see it? Do you see why it's complicated? Do you see why I can't tell you who's bad and who's not?
Now time. We might leave this other one on mute because copyright. So let me momentarily mute my computer mouse. Not having the best time. Not thriving at all. It should be connected directly to the computer, but it's just hold, please. This is a short one. The audio's a little iffy, so it might be able to, might get away with playing it. Fingers crossed. It's also short. was a traditional Sudanese wedding dance that I found on Petervw. It that's where I found it. It might have been a different person dancing. But Petervw is what is the account I found it on, but it might be art by Ahmed, either Ahmed Umar or Ahmed Umar. It's at the bottom of the screen. It might actually be the dancer. Okay, up next. This is going to be the last video, and then we are going to switch to a website that I will read from. Oh God. Okay, and then here's this. Which Nesrine Malik is the interviewee. That is this person right here that is going to be speaking, and this is going to be about the struggles of actually communicating what's going on in Sudan to the world. Let's unmute.
How bad are things in Sudan when you look at a global picture of conflict?
They are very bad, but there is a challenge with the conflict in Sudan, which is twofold. One is that it's very hard to get information from within the country because the war unusually started within the capital. The way these wars happen often is they start sort of in the periphery and then encroach upon the capital. So there's time to get the word out. But the way this happened is that the capital went first. And so with it went NGOs, human rights organizations, civil society, comms, the banking system, it's just the general communication structure of the country. So there's very little information happening to give people an understanding of just how bad it is. There's 4 degrees of tragedy happening in Sudan at the moment. You've got ethnic cleansing in the West. You've got a refugee crisis within and without, people moving within the country and people having to leave the country. You've got a humanitarian crisis, so people not being able to access food, shelter, medicine. And there is also a massive looting dynamic happening. So there's people being not only pushed out of their homes, but a sort of strange wartime resettlement is happening as well. So the people who've left those areas will find it very difficult to come back because the earth is being scorched where they were. So that's the first thing.
And I would also like to add, again, in the things I've seen looking for these videos, another issue with getting information out of Sudan is that the legalities of communication are extremely different than in the United States where I live. It's been said what I saw was that it is like recording something on the street is like a contentious legality issue. Free speech is a contentious legality issue. And so people, what we even manage to get comes at a great personal risk, because even if these people weren't filming for the sake of bringing light to the genocide and to the things happening in Sudan, they would be suspect because it is not legal for them to like be able to like have the freedom of speech is not legal, or it's a legality that they've been fighting heavily for. Freedom of the press is another legality they've been fighting heavily for, and that's what the revolution that Bassam was talking about was for and was supposed to help gain. But having the dictator's like military buddy take over as the new leader didn't help to actually make way for the freedoms that they've been fighting for.
So the degree of how bad it is and why we can't, why we don't have enough information about that. But the second thing is that there are sort of two, as you say, very high profile conflicts that are jostling against the Sudan conflict. It's quite hard to get attention for conflicts in Africa anyway.
Yeah.
And when they're competing with arguably the largest European war since World War II, and the sort of largest in conflagration in the Middle East since the 73 war, or in sort of in the Levant, you really are up against a lot of competition, both in terms of media attention and in terms of resources. So human rights organizations, the United Nations, the funding drive for Sudan by the United Nations has been ongoing. Sort of different United Nations departments has been ongoing for a few months, and it is tragically underfunded. So people aren't just contributing because they're not hearing about it.
And I'd also will add as well, like I was saying in the last video, I wouldn't be surprised if another part of why this conflict is getting pushed behind the Congo specifically is because Palestine and the Congo are conflicts that the West, and especially the US, can center themselves in, both with the United States being an active member of the genocide and the United States, people in the United States being like our capitalism is a direct and like antagonizing force in the Congo, and that is not, that direct AB line just isn't present with Sudan. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that is participating, and that is part of the reason why it is not making an impact with people. Okay, we're actually moving on now to this website, which we are going to, I am going to read through, but really quick, that interview, like I said, that interview, I found it on Sudan.Updates. Again, all of this is also listed down below, these people. Sudan.Updates is where I found it. And Nesrine Malik is the interviewee. But now we are going on to Sudan in Crisis, mapping the war's toll on people. Tariq Ali, it seems, is the person who created this, but I also have their username down below. Okay, background of the conflict. The Sunni Civil War, a brutal and devastating conflict, continues to ravage the nation without any signs of resolution. At its core, the war is a power struggle between two major factions, the Sudan Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The SAF is led by Burhan, while the RSF is commanded by Hemedti. The conflict ignited on April 15th, 2023, marking a severe escalation in tensions between these two forces. This clash not only symbolizes the failure of a fragile power-sharing arrangement, but also derails the progress towards Sudan's transition to civil rule, a transition that had been in the making since the ouster of Omar al-Bashir in April 2019. Efforts to reach peace in Sudan failed as the SAF and RSF couldn't resolve key disputes, sparking widespread violence. This conflict deeply affected Sudan's politics and inflicted severe hardships on its citizens, making a major crisis. Subsequent sections will discuss the impact of this turmoil on the Sudanese people's resilience. Impact on human lives. The ongoing conflict in Sudan, documented by the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, ACLED, up to February 8th, reveals a distressing scenario with over 1,450 conflict incidents. Notably, more than 850 are battle events reflecting extensive combat operations, while over 300 incidents involve violence against civilians, and another 250 are due to explosions or remote violence. Such events primarily affect non-combatants, emphasizing the heavy toll on civilian lives. The human cost is further underscored by the staggering loss of over 13,000 lives since the conflict's inception. A hotspot map illustrates this loss, with Khartoum State and West Darfur State bearing the brunt, marking them as regions with the highest fatalities. This map and the data it represents highlight the urgent need to address the conflict's impact on civilians and to seek resolutions that prevent further tragedies. Okay, so Khartoum is right here. It is this hot white spot that is to show that it has had 1,761 to 6,405 fatalities in that state. Darfur and South Darfur are in the next faintest color, the 797 to 1,760 range. Okay. With AC-led data set, the fatalities summed up to 13,068. This representation traces the fatalities across Sudan from the beginning of the conflict till the 8th of February, highlighting the war's devastating trajectory. So, the initial surge in fatalities corresponds with Khartoum clashes and El Hinia incidents, which saw the RSF targeting the Masalit tribe in West Darfur. According to the Darfur Bar Association in report by Human Rights Watch, the violence spread through Sardaba, where over 200, including leaders, were killed. Yale University Humanitarian Research Lab further revealed the obliteration of 27 Darfuri towns by the RSF. AC-LED's data from August to September 2023 indicates over 470 political violence events and rising death toll surpassing 2,280. The battle over strategic points in Khartoum and inter-ethnic clashes in South Darfur signaled an escalation in violence. The period from late October to November saw more than 360 violent events and 1,690 fatalities, with West Darfur suffering the most casualties. The Center for Information Resilience, CIR, reported that as of 15th of November, 68 villages had been damaged by fires, which I do have a video later that is going to talk about what this violence, because this report seems to end at February. I have one talking. We do have some videos talking about what this violence is starting to look like now. Most recently, February, Al Jazeera State has become a hotspot with over 500,000 displaced due to the conflict, intensifying in urban centers like Madani Al Kubra and Sharq Al Jazeera, as per the UN, IOM, and UNHCR reports. AC-LED reported more than 1,068 fatalities between January and February following the fall of Wad Madani as a result of clashes with Babanusa, North Kordofan, and Diling. This is a distribution of the different death tolls in the different cities of Sudan and different, did it refer to them as states? I would have to double check. Yeah, again, we can see the severe difference in how violent and how brutal, how many people died in Khartoum, burnt towns and villages. The Center for Information Resilience's CIR, Sudan Witness Team, has been monitoring the distressing trend of village burnings within the Darfur region, an area beset by violence that raises concerns of potential crimes against humanity and possible ethnic cleansing campaigns. Their analysis has revealed a harrowing pattern. Between the 15th of April and 15th of October 2023, at least 100 villages in Darfur suffered fire damage, as recorded in the map of fires in Sudan, with some enduring multiple incidents. Note that the burned villages mentioned here are just a few examples of the broader devastation. Which, as said earlier, this, I believe it was Ginger, I do not recall the name, but the RSF is essentially a revival of a prior rebel group, and it seems a lot of people in Sudan feel as if they are attempting to reignite and complete the genocide they attempted from 2006-2005, and they are trying to complete that now. The scale of destruction varies, with some villages nearly obliterated while others incurred more localized damage. This systemic burning represents not only a significant loss of property and heritage, but also signals a severe humanitarian crisis, displacing communities and intensifying the region's turmoil. The following panoramic image, assembled from stills extracted from a video shot on a hill to the south of Morni in West Darfur during the city's assault, was probably recorded on June 27th, as verified by the CIR Sudan Witness Team. You can even see the smoke. People who fled from El Genia, the capital of West Darfur, to Chad, say that the city is entirely obliterated by armed men supported by the RSF, and that the security and humanitarian situation continues to deteriorate. And this is a satellite imagery showing the burn scars in El Genia city between the 3rd and 13th of June 2023. And more satellite imagery showing the damage to Abu Adam village in South Darfur. This is what it looked like prior. This is the next day. Like, it is blackened. From conflict to displacement. The displacement crisis stemming from the ongoing conflict between the SAF and RSF continues to escalate. To date, it has resulted in approximately 8.1 million people being uprooted, including about 6.3 million internally displaced within Sudan and another 1.8 million who have sought safety across international borders. According to the International Organization for Migration Displacement Tracking Matrix, Weekly Displacement Snapshot 22, Sudan is currently experiencing the world's most extensive and rapidly expanding internal displacement crisis. We will not watch their video, but did I link this? Let me just link. I don't recall if I linked this to the video. I should have, because that feels like, okay. So I just added this link down to this actual site so you can use it. Go check out this this video on the displacement crisis. This is the looking at the internal displacement by origin. So the International Organization for Migration Displacement Tracking Matrix estimated that about 6,397,698 people, which makes up 1,275,146 households, had to leave their homes and are now displaced within the country. Reports from field teams indicated that these internally displaced peoples came from 12 different states. So they do refer to the states. Obviously, Khartoum is basically, it seems like the reflection of the most casualties map is also reflected in the most displacement, which makes sense. Khartoum, the majority, 56%, were displaced from Khartoum state, the capital of Sudan, and the epicenter of the conflict, totaling 3,556,958 as per the IOM-DTM latest report. Many of them have taken refuge in Al Jazeera, River Nile, northern Gedarif, Kassala, Sennar, Red Sea, and White Nile states. South Darfur. Following Khartoum comes South Darfur, second as an origin of internal displacement with 15%, which is equivalent to 975,088 people, as reported by the DTM. The biggest displacement from South Darfur followed clashes in Nyala and the burning of the villages around it. And this is an image of a displaced woman sits on a bed next to the remnants of her house burned in a fire in Darfur. Next is North Darfur. Thirdly comes North Darfur with 9%, representing 551,876 individuals, which is not a small amount of people. It is the third most. It is the middle of the color scheme for the displacement. That's still not a small amount of people. According to the International Committee of the Red Cross, Al-Fashir, the capital of North Darfur state, fighting in several localities in northern Darfur has forced population to flee to Al-Fashir and nearby villages to seek safety. So I need to learn Arabic. Al Jazeera, over 500,000 people, including men, women, and children, sought shelter in Al Jazeera. That is not an L. Al Jazeera state after the crisis began in April. However, many had to flee again when fighting between the SAF and RSF erupted in the outskirts of Wad Madani on December 15th. As reported by the DTM field teams, by December 18th, 2023, about 509,796 people were impacted by the conflict in Al Jazeera. Of these, around 275,796 people, or 60% of those affected, were forced to leave their homes for the first time, mainly coming from Madani al-Kurba and Sarj al-Jazeera areas within the state. In addition, about 234,000 IDPs who had already fled once, and mostly from Khartoum, and were staying in Al Jazeera had to move again due to the renewed clashes. So a graph view of the displacement chart. This is a view of it based on where a lot of people moved. And so again, you can see the people from Khartoum mostly went to River Nile. You can see what conflicts led to which destinations. External displacement. We are going to take a minute, focus specifically on the external displacement in Egypt, because I have other information here. As reported by the UNHCR, Egypt now hosts over 457,000 registered refugees and asylum seekers. Many of these individuals find themselves in less affluent areas of Egypt's major cities, and the nation is experiencing a fresh wave of arrivals due to Sudanese conflict. Sudanese nationals, who make up 44% of Egypt's refugee and asylum seeker population, with 213 individuals, are the largest group. The UN anticipates that the figures for Sudanese refugees and asylum seekers in Egypt will continue to grow. Problem is, Egypt does not necessarily make seeking refugee status easy, as a lot of countries do not. And because of this, people fleeing for their lives are going to extremes in order to seek safety, and they are trying to get smuggled into the country. And it is costing a lot of people their lives because of the heat to make the travel. People are hopping into trucks, getting tied down by ropes and nets into the back of trucks. And if these trucks flip on the journey, they will leave whatever passengers are there. And if the people did not die from the flip, they will die from dehydration in the desert. And as well, you also have, I saw today, Egypt is deporting almost 1 million people who had snuck into the country, deporting them to the border. And so they are going to face certain death again, either by the conditions of the desert or by the hands of these two parties that are shooting around or at them. And so there's a lot of death happening with regards to people trying to flee to Egypt just from the route, but as well because they are not fully welcome there. Refugees don't tend to be welcome most places, or at least certain refugees are not welcome most places, and thus they're not being allowed in, so they're trying to sneak in, and now they're all getting kicked out, despite the obvious, I would genuinely hold Egypt accountable for every single death that occurs as a result of this mass deportation. I would absolutely hold them accountable. Again, these are the external displacements. So we have 696,705 are fleeing to Chad, 588,416 to South Sudan, 464, maybe it was nearly 100,000, unless, again, this is from February, these numbers likely changed greatly, but 464,827 to Egypt. That also might not necessarily reflect illegal refugees. Ethiopia is 114,675 people. It doesn't even show me what Central African Republic is. 28,779 people, and then Libya is 6,434 people. In conclusion, the unfolding crisis in Sudan has wrought untold suffering on its people, creating one of the most urgent humanitarian situations in the world today. The stories of displacement, loss, and violence serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. As the international community witnesses this tragedy, it's crucial that we not only talk about Sudan, but also take concrete action to support its people. Recognizing the crisis is the first step. Offering solidarity, aid, and advocacy for peace are the subsequent and necessary measures. Let us come together to amplify the voices of Sudanese people, address their immediate needs, and work towards a future where peace and stability allow them to rebuild and thrive. Hashtag talk about Sudan. This is the references. Again, I just put the link to this actual site down below if you would like to check it out. And next, let me... المرسلين مني لك سلام بك متوسلين. Okay, our next video, this is our next video. Oh, you might have heard it, it's fine.
المرسلين مني لك سلام بك متوسلين مني لك سلام النبي خير المرسلين مني لك سلام بك متوسلين مني لك سلام المخلوقين مني لك سلام الخير واصلين مني لك سلام مصطفى مني لك سلام يا شفا القلوب يا شفا النبي المطاع مني لك سلام عون المستطاع مني لك سلام النبي المطاع مني لك سلام وعون المستطاع مني لك سلام الرحمن طاع مني لك سلام له الكون طاع مني لك سلام.
And we will get to why I've been putting these more Sudanese culture videos in between. It is not to break up the conflict and the horrors for us. I have a video on specifically why. We will get there, but this, I'm gonna actually just put this one on screen. It says, experience the beauty of Sudanese tradition with these heartfelt songs honoring the Prophet Muhammad. Let the captivating melodies and rhythmic beats take you on a spiritual journey, connecting you with centuries-old devotion and love for the Prophet. And this is from Sadagaatusa, Sadagaatusa. All of the videos I've gotten have been off of Instagram. What's the video? Did I turn the video audio off? Hold on. Let me check. I'll play it again. I'll play it again if I literally turn the video. No, okay, we're good. Okay, I just turned it off. Just making sure. I would have felt horrible. I've been a bit of a disaster today. But let me go ahead and get this video set up. This should be Gouda.
How do I write about grief, huzn, ka'aba, gham, so that it's palatable to the English tongue? How can I turn pain into poetry, so when I say that my people are dying, my people are bleeding, my people are mourning, it falls onto listening ears? How do I explain that the streets in my country saw more bloodshed than they've ever seen structure? How do I explain that the homes in my country heard more cries from martyrs' mothers than laughter of children? How do I explain Damm Shaheed Dammi without it getting lost in translation?
This was from Tortola0123. Let me put that on the screen really quickly, because we also want to share art that touches on this. Art does not need to shy away from these things. Okay. Let me check this one. Okay, now we are going to get into two videos on what the violence looks like now. And even this one is still relatively old compared to the next one, which is from like maybe a week ago. And this one is by Yasmin_A. I will, again, all of these are listed down below.
People in Darfur and Al Fashir need your help right now. This is the situation. Over 800,000 people are right now at risk of an impending massacre. Not months or years, but literally hours or days. The experts are calling the situation a kill box. They have nowhere to go. The rapid support forces are essentially trying to complete the genocide that they started in 2004, 2005. But we're talking Hiroshima and Nagasaki levels. Hiroshima and Nagasaki levels.
Which that calculation has been everywhere in a lot of the research I've been doing, and again, looking for these references. A lot of the news outlets that would typically even ignore this are willing to admit that the Hiroshima and Nagasaki levels of death are what the people of Sudan are looking at right now.
Levels of death. This is an emergency situation, and nobody's talking about it. I need you to talk about it, right? I need you to talk about it. I need you to find a way for us to get some media attention on this. There is a tiny window of opportunity for us to find a way to get the UAE, because the UAE is who is supplying weapons and finance to the RSF. If we can get the UAE to make maybe the RSF stop in their tracks, maybe there's a way that we can avoid this massacre. Please keep eyes on Sudan. Talk about us right now, yell about it, scream about it, call your representative, whatever. And I am terrified about what might happen. The experts are saying that right now it's inevitable unless something seriously changes. We cannot let this happen on our watch again.
And again, that they are referring to it as a kill box because you have one side that does not really care about its civilians and likely also wants to suppress civilian resistance to that, like, has been resisting the military regime. And then you have the other side, which is attempting to complete a genocide, and no one is stopping them. People are funding them. People are giving them weapons, which, again, at the end of the day, I apparently did not save this video, but at the end of the day, it is another conflict in which parties are trying to get an edge up on resources in Sudan. Sudan has oil, Sudan has gold, Sudan has Arabic gum, which is a major part of a lot of food, in which you've seen there have been multi-billion-dollar companies that have been complaining about the conflict because will they be able to get their Arabic gum? Will they be able to get this to help create their food products and beverage products? So this is another, like, vying for control of resources that the people of Sudan, not the military and not these rebels that are mass killing the people of Sudan have every right to control and distribute as they choose, as they desire. And let me check the audio on this one. This might end up being actually quite quiet. This one actually shows their logo, or not logo, their user. I wish more of them did. The only thing I was able to actually be able to download the videos from was one that wouldn't save the username or the, like, watermark on it, but I did not trust Instagram to not flag these videos, not hide them, not remove them, not shut down the creators. But again, this is another by Bsonblast, and this is significantly
I don't know
more
what to say, to be honest. Over 100 people were murdered in a village in Jazira State today by the RSF, 21 of whom were from a singular family. This morning, reports out of Khartoum that 4 people were killed, one of whom was a journalist, the second journalist to be murdered by the RSF in the last 24 hours in different cities. A video surfaced out of Durman of a mosque which had been converted by the RSF into a torture chamber. in which they raped several women. Reports that a student of Ahfad University for Women was abducted by the RSF, tortured, and killed. Across the country in Al-Fashir, a mother and daughter raped by the RSF. And that's all just today. That's all just today. And nobody knows. You won't see this on your TV. The only people who reported on it are Sudanese. And as I sit here and tell you all of this, I have to wonder if the words I used are gonna get my video flagged. I have to jump through silly, demeaning hoops, like saying the word grape, in the hopes that maybe the message will reach you. It's humiliating to talk about my people suffering this way. It makes me disgusted with myself.
Like, this shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't not be hearing about what's going on in this area. We shouldn't have to worry about the suppression of it for discussing it as it is discussed. We shouldn't have to worry about the term Sudan itself being suppressed on sites like Meta's Instagram, Facebook, because they simply suppress news sites and things talking about news topics on those sites. It is dehumanizing, but that's the point. We are not the customer of sites like that. We are the product. But this is like the video that made me just want to do anything now. And the next video, this is actually, because I saw this video on my own, just scrolling through things. This next video is the first video that I saw when I was actually just looking through the Keep Eyes on Sudan hashtag, trying to find videos for this. And this video is the reason why where'd it go? This video is the reason why I have been putting these videos. Where'd it go? Why I've been putting these videos in between some of the more news stories. This is the reason why. Okay. Tell me to stop hitting the space bar. I'm so used to use that to start and stop a video. Okay. This is our second to last video. Sorry about the audio spike, headphone users. I'm so sorry. I was gonna warn you, but I've been doing this for so long. I'm so sorry. I did not link that person's videos. I did not bring any of that person's videos because that person does use a lot of AI art, and not only in solidarity with other artists, I am not sharing that, but as well, there's a large humanitarian and environmental cost with AI that I do not think should be dismissed, even for for this purpose, but that is why I have been selecting other videos of joy, and specifically Sudanese joy. But this is the reason why that has been so important. Which like, I agree, like, we want the story to show not only the struggle and the strife and the reality that is going on because of this war and how greatly it is impacting the Sudanese people, but as well them as people, the culture, the humanity there. We want to not lose that because of the war and because of what this war is doing to people. And that is part of what really, like, god damn it, the video hasn't been playing audio because I'm bad. Remember everything I said about this video. Remember everything I said about this video.
Ignore what I look like. Please go watch Bespoke Curry's Insta story.
So there is an event called Hibiscus Soul. I am not currently sharing it because this is the event I'm not sharing because of the use of AI art.
This Hibiscus Soul event and what Bespoke Curry and Gin for Justice are doing is so important to me, is because they are seeing us beyond the lens of this war. They are seeing us, truly seeing us beyond the filter of struggle and strife and violence that is so often attributed to Africans, to Black people across the world. And the second,
like I said, we need both to be allowed to like talk about the history and the reality of the violence and brutality that we go through, but also who we are beyond that, our culture, our humanity.
Reason why it's important to me was so succinctly, precisely, poignantly expressed by Curry.
Recognizing how for Black folks and Black bodies across the diaspora, nothing can afford to get lost. Nothing can afford to slip through the cracks. So this is how we make sure that we're going to be able to sustain, because this is hard. I know it's hard. I see the hurt, the pain. I feel it in my body.
In the last year, we have lost so much. And it's not just in lives, it's not just in infrastructure, it's not just in... It's in culture, in identity. We are being erased. And that's something that people have been saying over the last year, and I've kind of just been like, it didn't really hit me. But some of us literally are. What the RSF did in Guinea and West Darfur was to erase the Masalit people. They targeted them to exterminate them. And many are saying that what is happening in Jazeera State right now is an effort to exterminate those people too. And displacing literally millions of people from their homes, forcibly kicking them out of their homes. Is that not also erasure? I am helping to raise my brother's 3 children. And I talk about Sudan all the time. And this whole time since I've been here doing this, I have been talking to them about, when we go back to Sudan, I want to prepare you for when we go back to Sudan. I want you to learn Arabic so when you go back to Sudan. And now I don't know if they'll be able to go back. And now all of the cultural things that I talk about, they have no root. They have no root. They are swimming in a vacuum. They already were, by virtue of being in the diaspora, by virtue of them having no real connection to that place except through us.
This is the part that really connected with me as a person in the diaspora who has no family. And so, like, I'm also Afro-Latina. Nothing about Mexican culture. I've nothing to connect from that except one memory of my grandmother. And even my Blackness, I, again, was not in connection with my family. I was not raised by my family. I was barely around most, if any, of my family. I had movies, and that is the closest thing to connecting with my culture I've pretty much ever had. And, like, I don't wish that on anyone else. I want to do what I can to also help amplify this culture and amplify these people, so that way those in the diaspora, those fleeing their homes, those who haven't been, who've never been, but have those ties there, are able to have some form of root to the culture that they belong to.
They have no tangible connection, and now I don't know if I will be able to ever give them that tangible connection. And that is terrifying. And most of all, it's terrifying because I don't want them to know Sudan through the lens of violence and destruction and struggle and strife. Because then... Anyway, I am so embarrassed. This video is not meant to be this sad. I implore you to make it a point to attend this month-long event. Hibiscus Soul Food, Sounds of Blackness, an art curation, conversation, and diaspora celebration of Sudani and Black American culture, sharing our stories of joy, culture, and language. You will not regret it.
Again, I am not sharing that event because of the use of AI art. I think there are absolutely going to be other ways to find and seek out Sudanese art that is real Sudanese art. But we will end with another example of Sudanese joy. Let me check the audio. I literally can't help but smile watch every time I see this one. So I hope y'all enjoy it. That is everything that I have down for you on the topic of Sudan. If you're looking for any of these creators to look at more of their own, like, speaking on it, that is going to be down. Their names are listed down below, as well as that website I read through. Also check out the hashtag Keep Eyes on Sudan. That is where I found a lot of this, and that's where you can find even more information. If you want to support me, then we have the books. The books are linked down below. If you want to support families escaping Sudan, then the first link should be the spreadsheet that has the families' fundraising campaigns. But that is all from me. Thank